I am about to predict the 25-26 championship table. So strap yourselves in, because at the end of the season, I could look like a complete genius or a complete bellend. You already do. Shut the fuck up. Right, we're starting right down at the bottom, and in 24th place, we've got Sheffield Wednesday. I mean, do I even have to debate this? Look, I'm sorry, Wednesday fans. I am really sorry. No one wants to be in the position you're in. It's a terrible situation. But pretty much everyone has your last this season, and I'd be absolutely gobsmacked if they don't finish bottom. No funds, unpaid players, transfer embargoes, closed stands, and manager Danny Roll has just quit as well. Look, I do feel for you. You know, I've been in that position before with crap owners, and it's like trying to get blood out of a stone telling them to leave. Plus, you sent us down a couple of seasons ago. So, 23rd, Hull City. Second bottom. This might be a little bit controversial, but Hull are a bit of a shambles at the moment, to be honest. They narrowly avoided relegation last season on mere goal difference. Ruben Sellers has now gone to Sheffield United, and they replaced him with, holy fuck, how do you pronounce that? Sergei Jarakovic. Nailed it. First year in English football. Yeah, they don't strike me with confidence at all. They've got a good few championship players, and they have just signed Ollie McBurney, to be fair, who I'm sure will grab a few goals for them, but they remind me a lot of Blues under Eustace. Players will do a job for you, grind a few points out. But there's a lot of players in that squad who've also been relegated before, so I think they'll struggle. 22nd, Charlton Athletic. Look, I really like Charlton. I think they're a good London club, and they're a team I'd actually quite like to see back in the Premier League someday. But I just don't think that they've got quite enough for this season. They have signed Charlie Kelman, who was very good in League One last season, but we haven't found that out at Championship level yet, so you know, they've got some decent players here and there, but I still think it's going to be a tough season for them over the long course of it. Plus, they've got Nathan Jones as manager, and he's just, ugh. He might be good at moaning at ball boys picking tennis balls off the pitch, but in terms of winning games, yeah, I don't think he's going to keep you up, if I'm being honest. Get rid of him, and then you might be on to something there. I expect a few surprise wins here and there for them, but again, over the course of the season, I just can't see Charlton winning enough games to stay up. But I would like to see it, and I'd be happily proven wrong if they are, providing that they don't obstruct us in any way possible. 21st, Preston North End. Now, a lot of people that I've seen on YouTube have been doing their predictions. I've actually put Preston to go down, and I can see the reasoning behind it. But I think they'll survive, because even though they had a terrible end to last season, and they've not got the greatest quality side, and the window really didn't help them. They've lost Freddie Woodman to Liverpool. But it just seems like forever onwards that Preston are going to be in the Championship. They were last promoted in 2015, and that was only to the Championship. They have not been in the First Division since 1961. I mean, like, this is an historic football club. They were one of the founding members of the Football League. And 64 years later, they've never been back. So based off that reasoning, I just feel as if, like, they're going to be one of those teams that's just going to be stuck in that sort of 17th to 21st position for a long time now. Like, I know we had it rough before United took over, but I'll try and be a Preston fan. 20th, Oxford United. I'm going to say it, you know, I think Oxford will survive. I really like the place itself. I think it's a beautiful city. Been there a couple of times in the past few months. And I was really looking forward to actually going sometime in the summer, you know, when it's bright and it's all really nice. And then they decide to go and put it in the winter months, which is bloody typical. I do quite like their team as well, you know. I like Rowett. He's got a strong championship pedigree and a decent team, you know. I'm keen to see how Luke Harris gets on. I thought he played well for us last season, and in any other season, Luke Harris would have been our star player. And I think definitely for Oxford, he could really help them out this season. Dembele's another one of those players I forgot, actually. He's, on his day, he's absolutely top quality. You just got to get the right balance with him. You got to get, like, the perfect strike with him, otherwise he can be all over the place at times. Plus, they've honestly got a player that is better than Jude Bellingham, Louis Sibley. Look, they're tipped to go down, and I wouldn't be surprised if they did, but they just seem like harder grafters, and I think they'll survive again this season. You know, they could try something next season as well if they do, and try and get a bit further up the table. At this moment in time, though, I think they will survive. Obviously, things can change. You know, the transfer window's still not closed, but I think they will survive, because I think there's a lot of lacklustre teams this season that could finish below them. 19th, Portsmouth. Again, I really do like Portsmouth. I've never been to Fratton Park, so you can probably imagine my face when I found out we had them on the very last day of the season. I have a bad feeling about that game already, I know. Typical Blues fan, honestly. But, you know, it's always the case, isn't it? You look forward to going to a ground you've never been to before, you know. And it's always that we have to win in order to confirm something, and then the game just ruins that stadium experience. But yeah, in terms of Portsmouth, I've put them 19th. They have got a good attacking team, you know. They've got Josh Murphy, Callum Lang, Colby Bishop's another good player. They've got a decent side going forward. But aside from that, I think they're a pretty standard team. I think they'll do all right. And to be fair, I think staying up won't be an underachievement for them this season. In my opinion, I think that just sort of steadying the ship, they've been in League One for fucking ever, honestly. So just somewhere that'll keep them above the relegation battle. So 19th, but who knows, maybe a little bit higher. 18th, Watford, managed by Paolo Pezzala, fuck your name, man. I've never heard of you. Watford go through managers better than we did, and that's saying something. They've been through 18 managers since 2013. They've had 5 managers since they've been in the Championship. One of which was Rob Edwards, who they sacked and then went on to their rivals Luton and got them promoted to the Premier League. Yeah, they've signed a couple of decent players. They got Cipriano, who was good for Peterborough last season, scored a very good goal in the final against us. Apparently we're in a trophy final. I don't remember it. No, I'm not thinking of it. But the thing we quite often see with clubs that go through managers after pretty much every defeat is that they begin to slide. And though I don't think they'll go down this season, they need to be careful because maybe teams like Charlton, who might be down there come the end of the season, you can guarantee that they'll be fighting for their lives. And they will surprise a few of those teams who think they're safe. They've had a bad season. They're trying to put it behind them. Their mind's already on the beach, do you know what I mean? And that's pretty much how those shock relegations come about. They think they're all safe, and then all of a sudden they're in trouble. Believe me, it's happened to us. I don't really see much from Watford this season, and probably good, because that game we last played them at home as and the one away, actually. We've had some irritating games against them. 17th, QPR. Ooh, getting into it now, aren't we? Finished below 15th for the last 3 seasons. They do have a good couple of players, don't get me wrong. Kwame Poku, we're in for him at the start of the window. Very good player on his day. Again, Elias Chair, very good player on his day too. But that's about it, really. I don't think that there's a very good balance in their squad. They've got a fuckload of attacking midfield players, but a fuckload of fuck all elsewhere. What? But yeah, I just don't think they're that threatening this season. But no doubt that they'll be beating us at Loftus Road, and no doubt Kwame Poku will be scoring too. 16th, Blackburn Rovers. Hard one, Blackburn, actually. I've never really liked them, if I'm being honest. Mostly because we never win there. I've never seen us win there in person or on the telly. Honestly, Ewood Park, I don't think we've ever won there in my lifetime. Maybe once or twice, but not once I can remember. But honestly, they're one of the worst run clubs in football. Their owners, the Venkis, they just do not care. And it's kind of sad, because I think the fans are actually pretty decent. Local fans, very dedicated to their club. But honestly, they just get treated like shit. Again, I feel for them in that regards because shit owners make everything shit. They do have a couple of half-decent players. Todd Cantwell's pretty decent. Lewis Travers is a good midfielder in my opinion as well. Plus, they're a bit like Preston in that way, that they always seem to find a way out. Kind of how Blues were before we got relegated, do you know what I mean? But, they're in that spiral again, Blackburn, I think it's another one of those seasons where they'll continue to circle the plug hole before they're gone. I don't know what that was, but that's an illustration of Blackburn being relegated. 15th, Wrexham. Really tough one, Wrexham, this season. Honestly, I don't know, if I'm being honest. I've put them 15th, which even now while I'm sat here, actually, I think is a bit too low. But if I put them near the playoffs, then that just seems ridiculous. No doubt this will be the toughest season for them since their Hollywood journey, really. I think they will shock a few people. Don't get me wrong, there will be some big teams that they beat this season. They've made some good signings too. Josh Windass is a player that I would have loved for Blues a couple of seasons ago. Whether that's good at this level, again, I don't know. Phil Parkinson's been with them for a while as well, so I'm sure he'll be getting them working and keeping the spirits high. There's just a lot of hurdles to clear this season for Wrexham. With the key and most important one is literally just survival. It might come at the end of the season that they are pushing further up the table and relegation isn't a worry. But honestly, if I was a Wrexham fan right now, if you were guaranteed to survive, I would take that. Anything else is a bargain then. In 14th place, I have Swansea City. Could maybe go higher, but I don't know. They just don't strike me with playoff material or contenders, really. I like Swansea, look, I really like their stadium announcer as well. Come on, the Swans! They've just bought a youngster called Bobby Wales as well, who's Scottish and part Irish, so that's good luck. Not a tad bit of English in him, well done, boyo. But aside from that, their squad looks really thin. I've seen a few people putting them a bit higher, but I don't know. I ain't too sure with them. At the moment, of course, everything's in hindsight once people watch this in in the future and see laugh at me. 13th, Millwall. Yeah, God, I'm really not sure about this one. My reasoning being behind this is that Millwall have always seemed to teeter on the edge of making the playoffs, and quite often when teams continue to not make the playoffs, they have one season where they have a real disappointing follow-up season, and I think that'll be this season. Don't get me wrong, they do have some quality players. I think Tanganga's solid at the back. Ivanovic as well is a very good goal scorer, but I also think that they might get worked out by some of the bigger teams, which there are quite a few to be fair this season. And I don't know, they always seem to strike me as that sort of traditional lump it forward sort of team. They're big and strong and everything, and they will get some good results, but I just think they'll dip at times this season, and some of the bigger teams might really try and put it on them. And unfortunately, I think it'll be a 13th place finish for their sake. It's a shame because I would honestly love to see them in the Premier League and just cause utter carnage. Plus West Ham, Millwall. Oh, should have seen when they got Pete Gibbons. 12th, Middlesbrough. Yeah, again, I'm not sure about this. This middle bit of the table is really tough to predict. But again, similar to my reasoning behind Millwall is that teams that continue to miss just out on the playoffs, they always seem to have a really tricky season at some point. And I also think that Borough have kind of ridden their luck out in recent years. They've had a great few moments in the last few seasons, making semi-finals, great cup runs, beating Man United every single time they seem to make the quarterfinals or whatever it is. I can't remember exactly when they beat them in those games, but they seem to beat them a lot. But now that Carrick buzz has sort of wore off, and now they've got Rob Edwards, who I like, but I'm just not sure if he's going to be able to galvanise everything together to push for a playoff spot. Could be proven wrong entirely, but at the moment, I just think they'll struggle to break into the top 6. Not saying they won't have their moments, they'll probably make the semi-final of the Carabao Cup again. They'll win a fair few, but, just not enough. Kind of like Millwall in the end. 11th, Bristol City. 3 teams in a row with the same explanation. They made the playoffs last season, but they may as well not have turned up, to be honest. They're one of those teams, Bristol City, that seem to come so close, but are so far at the same time. I remember when they made the playoff final in 2008 and they lost to Hull, and that felt like at that time that they were going to do it, but they never can quite do it. And they kind of snuck into the playoffs last season, and I feel for them because they're going to have to go all again, really, and I think that's going to be taxing at times this season. There's going to be some real dry bits of the season where they're coming into the winter months and they're playing some hard teams, but the reason I think they'll finish above Borough and Millwall and those teams is just because I think they've got that a little bit more of togetherness. Scott Twine's good, and a fair few of their signings look pretty decent too, but in the end I just think they'll dip, so 12th. Yeah, God, this is difficult. 10th, Stoke City. Interesting. I might have put them a bit too high, but Mark Robins, honestly, is a really good manager. I like him a lot. I remember when he took over Coventry and took them back to the Championship. He only missed out on the Premier League, literally, on penalties when they played Luton as well. I remember how he got Coventry playing when we played them in that FA Cup game a few seasons ago. You remember that crazy game when we were away in our own stadium, Blue Side, Birmingham City Football Club? It never ends. But yeah, what I noticed about them is that in that warm-up that they did against us, because I saw it twice, so I got some good angles of it all and everything, they played diagonally across the pitch, which is a really tricky thing to defend against, because you push all your team onto one side and then it goes all the way back the other side and then goes back again. And they caused us so much problems in that game, and they were a League One side back then. And consistently, he's always done well with Coventry, and I can imagine that he's going to do well with Stoke as well, because they're one of those teams, if I'm right in remembering, that they've got quite a bit of money, but they just can't spend it really. So I think with someone like Mark Robins at the wheel, I think he'll spend it wisely and invest right into the team. And to be fair, they've bought Aaron Cresswell. He's a decent sign. He's got very good Premier League experience. Sorba Thomas out wide as well, very good on his day. And also Sam Gallagher, who again, no doubt will score against us this season. Most likely at their place, but he's a half-decent striker who'll probably bag him a fair goals, to be fair. But yeah, Stoke 10th. 9th, West Bromwich Albion. Now, I'd love to say that they're going to finish lower than that, but it's the Baggies. Poor old Tony Mowbray's been given the boot. Ryan Mason's been put in charge, who couldn't look as if he gives less of a shit. Their team is pretty withered as well. Yeah, I think they'll finish 9th. Because they're kind of like the Man United of the Championship. Do you know what I mean? Every time you seem to check the scores on your phone or whatever, they've lost. Yet somehow they're always up pushing for the playoffs for some reason. Honestly, the season we went down, they finished 5th. 5th? They were fucking awful. How? I don't get it, honestly. They were shit. So West Brom will be awful this season, in my opinion, but it's the Baggies. So they'll be probably pushing for automatics to come the end of the season. 8th, Derby County. Right, I'm really considering changing this one, but it, Derby 8th. Look, John Eustace, we just have to admit, right, is a good championship manager. He kind of gives me Gary Rowett vibes, actually. He did well with us, and he never should have been sacked. And he did well with Blackburn as well. And in hindsight, right, when he left Blackburn for Derby, everyone was criticising him and kind of laughing at him, dropping right the way down to Derby. But in hindsight, it was the complete right thing to do, because where would you rather be right now? At Ewood Park in front of no fans, terrible owners, you got no backing, no real ambition or anything, or you go to Derby where Blues fans are jumping on people's bonnets? I know exactly which one I'd prefer. Seriously, some of the players they've bought, like Carlton Morris from Luton, Danny Bath, Andy Vyman, boo, and Patrick Adjiman is apparently a good striker too, and also Ryan Brewster. I mean, that's a proper signing for Derby, that is. Also, they have Sanderson as well. Sanderson, Dion, driving like a twat. Dion, get an Uber back. Dion, to the Premier League we go. Sanderson, Dion. Derby 8th. 7th, Norwich City. Now, Norwich have an absolute bucket of players this season. They had Jack Wilshere in charge last season, and I've seen a few people been putting them lower in the league tables, but the thing is, it's about the whole season, not just now. They've got a few new keepers. Harry Darling's got great championship experience. Medic is meant to be quite good as well. And they have a solid midfield, honestly. Like Marcelinho Nunes, who scored that absolute wonder bastard when we played them a couple of seasons ago.
Shit! Did you see that? He must have a foot like a traction engine.
He's still a very top player. They've also got that Jacob Wright from Man City, who's meant to be a really good young City midfielder. And Jeffrey Schlupp, who, although he might not be the most exciting player ever, he's done well with Leicester and Palace in the Premier League. So he probably will do pretty well for them. And Josh Sargent as well, who is a goal scorer. And a couple of 1-0 victories this season could be all that's needed, really, for Norwich to push further up the table. I also think as well, with that middle of the table being a bit lacklustre, I think they could leapfrog over a few teams. And when they play each other as well, I think Norwich will come out on top in most of those games. Plus, we never win at Carrow Road, so, that's 3 points at the back. God, I'm so negative, honestly. 6th, Leicester City. Yeah, this one's a really tough one. I'm really not too sure about this one, but I've gone for them 6th. Despite their financial problems, they do still have a very good championship side. James Justin's a very good fullback. He's dropping down a level as well, so I imagine he's more than capable of doing that. Oliver Skipp as well. He didn't have a great time last season, but as well, it's sort of the similar thing with Justin. I'm sure he'd be more than able to adapt to the championship. And then you look elsewhere in the team, like some of the other bits of experience they've got. They've got Ndidi, they've got Fass, Vestergaard, Mavadidi. Again, the good players, and that could all change in a couple of weeks, with the FFP things and everything. So I really don't know about that. But I think with the team that they've currently got, I'm going to put them 6th. That's a hard one because over the course of the season, as I've been saying, you've got to judge the team and everything. But you never know with Leicester. Like, they could be slapped with a massive points deduction this time next week. But currently, I'm going to say 6th, but could change. 5th, Coventry City. Now, I really like Frank Lampard as a manager. I think he's really great. I think he's been given so much flack as well in the media for sort of the time he had at Chelsea and Everton. Like, to say as if he did nothing at Derby as well. He took a team with Mason Mount and Harry Wilson, even a couple of other players that weren't really, well known and haven't gone on to do as much since. To put that Derby team into the playoffs there, even though they did have financial issues themselves. They beat a very good Leeds side at the time. And he's a quality manager. You can't take it away from him. I think he does well wherever he goes. And he took them from the bottom half of the table last season into the playoffs, and only missed out on the final just because they lost to Sunderland in the last second. They've got some really quality players. They bought Matt Grimes last season, who really helped them push on to the end of the season. Radoni, Sakamoto, Haji Wright, who I think is injured at the moment, but he had a great season last season. So if he gets over that, then he's another great addition. Brandon Thomas Asante is a little bit of an iffy one. I'm glad we never signed him in the end. But he's a goal scorer at times, so could really chip in with a few. Look, again, over the course of the season, I just think they'll grind results out. And in the end, they'll be comfortable in the playoff spots. It's just a debate whether they'll finish 6th or 3rd, or it's just in between that bracket then. 4th, Sheffield United. Now, I've seen a few people put them 4th, and I agree. There's just something just not quite there for them to go up automatically, in my opinion. They've just sacked Chris Wilder, which I think was very harsh, to be honest. I don't think that Ruben Sellers will flop, but it's all brand new to him, do you know what I mean? Plus, with the team off the back of that devastating final defeat as well. Yeah, I just get the feeling they'll start slow. Gus Harmer has stayed, as well as Harrison Burrows. They've also got Louis Barry, which isn't a terrible choice. You know, we were having to think about him at the start of the season, apparently. But, you know, it might work better with him in the Sheffield United shirt. So I'm going to put them 4th, but you could go either way. Do you know what I mean? Now, this is getting interesting now because there's only 3 teams left. Ipswich, Southampton, and Birmingham City. Now, in 3rd, I have gone 4. I couldn't do it. I've put us 3rd. Oh, I just, no, I couldn't put us in the automatics. Now, there's a reason why I think we'll finish 3rd. One, I don't want to jinx it, because I've seen a lot of people put us in 2nd. I mean, the Irish guy put us top, which is just pretty fucking jinxed it already, if I'm being honest. It's coming from a bloke who thought that Jude Bellingham wore the same shirt as Obafemi Martin, so I'm kind of not going to go with that, do you know what I mean? No offence, Irish guy, I actually quite like it, to be fair. I am not a superstitious person at all, except when it comes to football. Like, for some reason, things don't go for you unless you've got the same pair of lucky pants that you wore when we beat Leeds 6 seasons ago. 2, I think if we do finish in the playoffs, I genuinely think we'll win them because we lost at Wembley last season, and again, with superstitions coming in, we'll win it this time. And also, another positive reason why I think we'll finish high is just look at us, honestly. Chris Davies is honestly my favourite ever Blues manager, and he's only even been here a season. He's such an incredible leader. Like, any team in the world would love to have him as their manager. And he rebuilt a defeated, downtrodden team into a world record breaking side. I mean, like, that's just unheard of. And we've made some top signings, honestly, like Tommy Doyle, who's got some quality Premier League experience. Kyogo scored bags of goals for Celtic, you know, in Old Firm derbies and Scottish Cup finals. Damari Gray's back. We all know what he's like. You know, he's quick, he's agile, he's absolutely raring to get back going for Blues. Bright Asai Samuel as well, you know, he's probably going to be the main choice right back at the moment. You know, he's got good competition with Ethan Laird as well, you know, excellent choice. He's also a bit of a scrapper as well, which I fucking love at the Blues, honestly. That mural of him at Fenerbahce, of him just like battering that bastard on the floor, just like, fucking go on. And Phil Neumann, who is the scariest man in football. I'm scared of him, and he's on my team. All of these signings could easily fit a Premier League team, and in a team that's already beaming with confidence, honestly. Jay Stansfield's got another shot in the Championship. He will be more than happy to play on the break and get goals like that way, tearing up backlines, really causing issues. Keshi Anderson, who honestly, when he joined us, I thought he was on his last legs, but he's now one of the bright sparks in the team. He's really attacking, he takes players on, takes on shots. We did a lovely little nutmeg against Forest the other day. Ryan Alsop has the potential to be honestly the best keeper in the league this season, and those cross-diagonal passes up the pitch towards Gray and Anderson, it's just, honestly, that could cause so much problems this season if executed right. Beadle's great competition for him too. You know, he's just won the European Championships with the under-21s, along with Stansfield, actually, I should say. Ethan Laird, what a guy. Christoph Clara, another scary bloke. Alex Cochrane, Tomoki Iwata, Christian Bielik, Kanya Fujimoto, Willem Williamson, Ballon d'Or winning Paik Sung Ho. Alright, I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. But honestly, it's such a high we're on right now, and I think if we finish 3rd, we'll win the playoffs. So I don't know why I've just tweeted this, but it's done, isn't it, I suppose? I've never wanted to go bald more in my life. Blues, make it happen. 2nd is Southampton. Will Still has his first job in English football. You might remember him as the manager that learnt his coaching skills on Football Manager. And he's got a great side to work with. You know, he's got Adam Armstrong, quality Championship striker. Ben Brereton. Diaz is also a quality Championship striker. Cameron Archer, Will Smallbone, Tyler Dibbling, who I really like, by the way. Obviously, I don't watch much Premier League football because I'm always at the Blues, but I remember watching Southampton last season on the telly. I think it was City they played, or someone like that. But he was so different from all the other players on the pitch because he has lovely, tricky feet, really direct, goes straight at players, and taking on shots that just really come out of nowhere, really. Plus, he's a young kid as well, so with the right formula this season, I think he could really fly, providing that he stays. You know, granted, they could sell a few of them and get a bit of cash in, but they'll probably reinvest that smartly. You know, they've got a good manager to do that as well. But still, yeah, we'll still. They've got a very good side and a very good coach, which, in my opinion, will get them automatics this season. So, in first is Ipswich Town, our competition in the very first game of this season on Friday night, which, by the way, I have a very strong feeling will win, you know. That being said, I do think Ipswich will win the league. Kieran McKenna stayed, and more importantly, you know, the board didn't sack him last season. You know, it's so refreshing to see in today's modern game, you know, after managers go on a bad run of form, they sack them within an instant, you know. I mean, we have to go back to Watford to demonstrate that well. But there were moments last season that Ipswich easily could have pulled the trigger on Kieran McKenna and trying to gamble that they would stay up, but they stuck with him. And even though they did get relegated, you know, look at the position that they're in right now. Sammy Schmodix, you know, was the Championship's top scorer the last time he was in the league. And that was with a relegation battling Blackburn as well. So he'll bag a shitload this season. You know, Akpom's rumoured to sign at any time soon, who, even though I don't really fancy him at Blues, I'm sure he'll do very well at Ipswich. He's a decent striker. He's obviously also another former Championship top scorer. Connor Chaplin, the last time he was in the Championship, he scored 13 and set up 9. Amari Hutchinson, who's just won the Euros with the England under-21s as well. You know, a couple of those players who are in those teams are really going to do well this season, in my opinion. Last time he was in the Championship, he scored 11 and set up 6. Jayden Philogene is a top player, even though he's Villa scum. And we're playing against top Premier League sides last season. You know, they're going to be quickly fitting back into the Championship, and they'll be at a different level as well. Might take a bit of time to get going. I think we will start really fast. I think that we'll have a couple of games at the start of the season where we'll just be like racing ahead. But over time, I think, you know, Ipswich are eventually going to go into full drive and then take on a few teams and get a couple of really good wins. That will eventually, in course, see them top of the table. So yeah, I've got Ipswich to go straight back up, but what do you think to my predictions in the comments down below? Be sure to let me know honestly, but not too cruelly. All right, you know, fucking hell. It's only the start of the season. I'm just giving what I think. No need to be like that, is there? Thank you for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Birmingham City action in this upcoming 25-26 Championship season. I'm not joking. I will genuinely go bald if Blues go up this season. It's a bet I'm willing to risk because genuinely, if we do get promoted, I am shaving that motherfucker off. Yeah, anyway, be sure to check in on the vlog tomorrow night. And yeah, thanks for watching. Keep right on.